I'm told it's after 3 o'clock, so welcome to the October edition of Speaking of Art, our monthly lecture. For this time, we've tried a little different format, not just a talk, but letting us sit in on a conversation between two lovely ladies that we know already owe a great debt to. And that is, you will have noticed a lot of new art in the last several months appearing around Horizon House. Thank you. That's thanks to Carol Fuller, the lady on your right there. And we owe a great debt for that. The legacy of years in the Seattle art community and years as an art curator and gallerist, which she graciously and with great generosity decided to pass on to us, thanks in large part to the presence of Gary Fuller, her cousin here. So, and prominent in that collection is the artist we're going to hear mostly from today, Claudia Fitch, sitting right here by me. So I know you've all got questions, because I've heard some of them, about the meaning or the interpretation of some of her sculptural pieces which grace the Fireside Lounge. So I know that's going to be included here, but I think we're in for a treat with much more. And so I will let Carol and Claudia take it from here.
Thank you, John. I just want to make sure, am I blocking the view when we start the slides? Can everyone see? Perfect. Oh, well, that's true. We do. I tend to forget. It's almost an embarrassment of riches. I just want to add a little something to what John said. I feel like it was a team that donated the work. My husband, Evan Schwab, who's no longer alive, was very supportive, not only of the idea of collecting art, but also was very supportive when I had the notion that it would be okay to open a gallery. And when it closed 8 years later, we both agreed the only thing that would have been more stressful was maybe opening a restaurant. So Evan and I married in 1976, and believe it or not, in those days, you could walk into Foster White, or at least we walked into Foster White, and we each walked out with a Kenneth Callahan Sumi ink drawing with no credit card, nothing. Just, call me up next Tuesday, said Don Foster. It was a Saturday. Call me next Tuesday and tell me if you want it. We'll figure out how you pay for it. It was really nice, yeah. So it was an easy thing to start with. In 1988, in the summer of 88, I was approached by Sean Elwood, who'd lived in New York and worked for Ronald Feldman Gallery, about opening a gallery. And so I decided to jump in the water with him. And it was a wonderful experience, partially because of the people I met. And Claudia was one that I met fairly early on. And Sean and I loved her work. And I don't want to talk too much about it or take too much of her time, because she's got more than an hour's worth of things to show us. So, happy to answer questions after the fact, but would love to turn it over to her, and just in closing say, people keep telling me, thank you for giving us your art, and my response will always be the same: thank you for taking it. It was a daunting task to look at that work in a 3,000 square foot house and try to figure out what I was supposed to do, and it came to me in the middle of the night. So it's got a good home. It's got a really good home. Yeah. So Claudia.
Thank you.
Are you on? Nope. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. I don't know what to say right now, except that it was just really exciting for me to work with Carol, because I think you were my first gallery.
I think that's right, yeah.
And I had plenty of shows in nonprofit spaces in New York, but, except for Adam Baumgold Gallery in New York. And there's a funny story related, I think, with some of the work you're going to see. Okay. So thank you for being here. I love to tell stories about the work. Okay, yeah. Oh, someone. Is this supposed to work?
Technology.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Seattle. Next slide. I apologize for the photos. With my trusty Voigtlander camera that I had given to me by my dad back in the 70s, I loved documenting my parents' house. And they were both collectors. And you can kind of make out that there's a whole bunch of clocks in one room, and then the next room is the breakfast room that had a clock. The house we had was a 20-room house in Montlake. And with each of us kids moving out, there were 4 of us kids, Mom would take over the bedroom that we occupied and put her dried flowers and for, flower arranging, and she was totally into that. So I grew up kind of in the mechanical age. My dad grew up in that age. He collected everything mechanical and electronic. He was an engineer at Boeing. Yeah. But he came from a musical family. We all started playing the piano at age 4. I did, and from there on, decided I wasn't going to be a classical musician, and art was much, much easier to do. So, the World's Fair, I didn't realize how influenced I was by the World's Fair until they did their 50-year anniversary. And I was serving on the board for the county. And Kath Brunner, who was running the art advisory board, said, this book on the 50-year the 50-year birthday, it's got your name written all over it. You were clearly influenced. So I'm putting the picture up. I'll try to make the connections as we go along. I don't think this ship figurehead is in the Museum of History and Industry, but I put it up anyway. I grew up in Montlake, and the Mohi was just a mile away, and they had their own connection. I don't think this last image was part of it. This is the collection at Mohi, and in the old building, all of these figures were in the stairwell. So it kind of made it sort of haunted. And it was a haunting experience, but mostly because these figures were positioned in such a way that it was disorienting. And that kind of disorientation forced one to really imagine the ship behind the figure and this massive enterprise behind the figurehead. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. I will do that now. So
it's when you turn your head away from it that we can't hear you.
Okay. What?
Just take it with
okay.
you.
I will
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
They're positioned in such a way so that the right relationship of the figure on the ship as a whole. And I liked how it forced you to imagine something that wasn't really there, but very much was there, given by the angle and the fact that these figures had a functional role. And so there's the effort of trying to get them to attach to it. So anyway, I loved what's not there as much as what was there. I went to grad school. I went to the UW and graduated in 1979, and then in 77 moved to Philadelphia to go to grad school at the Tyler School of Art, Temple University. And this was not had not been painted and put together when I was in Philly. I stumbled on this image some years ago because I was asked to do a pecha kucha, you know, a bunch of images that I found really interesting as examples of public art that I felt were very effective. This is by Kent Twitchell, Dr. J. I think it's just commemorating an important figure in the community. But I will be continually fascinated with how figures relate to architecture in artwork, and this is a wonderful example of that. But a week after school started in 1979 at Tyler School of Art, a bunch of us decided to go to Atlantic City. And some people were already quite familiar with Atlantic City. I was not, and I brought my camera, and I was just drop dead flabbergasted by the environment of Kansas City. Not only the boardwalk and just the kind of carnivalesque quality of the environment, but also, look at it. It's just, you know, Beaux-Arts as tourist attraction and a certain intensity to the architecture, but all the activity around it. I just said, what on earth is going on here? Seen from my West Coast eyes, the shoreline never looked like this. So I wanted to return. I think there is something very fascinated about the particular era that this was built in. Can you hear me?
If you keep it up, it's when
Okay,
you move away
okay.
from it that it's a problem.
And on that same trip, going to Margate on New Jersey. So my work is really I'm really interested in this ongoing thing that happens in more vernacular kind of carnival-like spaces in the American landscape, which is buildings that also are figures, building something that has to function, but also something that is this fantasy, this figure. I thought this really brings it home. And the window and the elephant's butt. But yeah, so there, it was a revelatory moment. I love having things so plain stated. The second year in grad school, I decided to go to the Temple University program in Rome. And I took the tour in northern Italy. This is in Vicenza, just outside of Venice. I broke from the crowd and kind of took an aerial view at the Rotunda, which is a famous building by Palladio. Palladio did a lot of work around Vicenza, and I had not really studied his work before, and this was extraordinary experience to see this. What I really found myself drawn to is the way, well, as with many buildings in Italy, the way that the human figure is related to architecture, architectural space. And you can see this here with the figures along the top of the wall. All of these photos are mine. For now, there'll be other photos by other people. This is Fiesole. It's a little town just up the hill from Florence. And what I just want to say, that Piazza experience in Italy is magical most of the time. In this case, just how it frames how people move through that space, which is theatrical and makes the ubiquitous activity of strolling the street into something kind of beautifully framed and beautifully experienced. So. This is the piazza at the Vatican. If you can make it out, there's little figures along the top, the entablature up there at the top, little figures. And of course, us humans are also the figures. And it's just wonderful how the both are related. The roof of the Vatican was even more astounding. So, postcards, Italian postcards. This was the start of a whole series of sculptures, of which you have one in your collection. It's the mannequin head, number 7. The yellow large head. The variety and the unity of this arrangement inspired those mannequin heads, and then later on the colossal heads at Lumen Field. So many babies. They were really totally into babies. The storefronts. I lived on Via Flaminia, just outside of Piazza del Popolo, and Via del Corso, I think, had quite a commercial street frontage, and the store windows were fascinating too. Just because they're Italian, they weren't American. That you could share the understanding of commercial enterprise, but through an Italian lens. It's wonderful. So I took the train from Seattle to Philadelphia, and as I was leaving the train, we had arrived at the destination, and all the passengers got off before me. And then, as I was getting off the train, newspapers were on the vacant seats announcing that New York was now bankrupt. And yes, a lot of other cities around the country had some effects of that as well. And so we took as part of the graduate school experience, it was, of course, going into New York, and a bunch of us would carpool. And I don't think we parked in Times Square. I think we usually parked down in Soho, but got up to Times Square. Seeing this for the first time, this Alex Katz mural on a building that had a sort of a 30-foot tall tower at the corner and had a frieze, much more than what you see in this photo. And it was fantastic to see this piece and the large paintings of the women's heads. And Alex Katz is one of my favorite, the way he kind of turns a painting into a cartoon, but then it's much, much more. It's really well balanced. and beautifully sort of reduced down to essentials. But this was 42nd Street. You can see it right there. And the fashion district was just south of that. And just south of that was Soho, which used to be an extension of the fashion industry with showrooms for fabrics and showrooms for all the other things you need to make clothing. Buttons, hooks and eyes, that stuff.
Ribbons.
What ribbons and ribbons. I absolutely loved wandering around all those neighborhoods, really each street. And of course, Orchard Street had its version of that too. And really, it was just fascinating to come in as an outsider and sort of put the picture together through the commerce of these storefronts. So business was kind of getting low, so a lot of store fixtures were getting sold off, and a lot of very curious looking things were available for sale. I don't know where I got this picture, but I do have a real interest in mannequins and how the human figure and then the objectness, this thing has to function. It's got to sit on a table. It's got to be some sort of display. You know, there's that sort of weird combination of figural and functional that I still love to see happening. And the mystery of what it can look very mysterious, such objects. I got to buy this at one of the closeout sales of that time, which is meant to support a hat and a scarf. But it has great influence on me today, but through most of the work that you'll see coming up, just the essential supports in which you can read into the human form.
My favorite slide.
Yeah. This photo was taken by Howard Giske. He ran the photo archive at Museum of History and Industry. And he and I were close friends before I left, or while I was living in New York, too. A huge influence on not only how to look at a photograph, but how to take one, how to look at the particulars of a city environment, but to see the larger picture, the social picture, the economic picture, what its era was. He really had a wonderful eye and really knew how to keep the photo archive a real value in those of us doing research on public art. So these are just fixtures, but they could be anything. There's a mystery about them I love. So I moved to New York in 79. No, wait a second. Early 80s. And as I said, I was fascinated by the neighborhoods that were still showing the last vestiges of a fashion industry going on in that neighborhood. Franklin Furnace was one of those. It used to be a fabric showroom. It then went on to be a place for, it was an experimental outpost, as I read somewhere in a magazine. I think it describes it, just experiments on performance, writing, visual arts, and how those realms really kind of bleed into each other and redefine each other. So this was once a showroom, and I decided to turn it into a showroom again, and use bolts of fabric that were found on the street, scraps of wood found on the street. So something that you might imagine a model stepping down the steps, or, finery displayed on this table here. It was called the Showroom of Angel Dresses. I was just starting to work in some sweatshops in New York, and the angel dress was kind of a vernacular term, common term in the industry of a couple of years of a popular dress, which was very roughly and very Victorian. And my first job was making these things out of linen. And it was a great job. At the end of the day, you had something to show for the work. Beautiful fabrics, interesting designs. But these are ghost dresses, angel dresses, for kind of a ghost environment. I apologize. This photo. This was the announcement card, and I wanted to make a display stand for for the show, and had two of the dresses sort of suspended above this rather gloomy cityscape, but kind of poking fun a little at the theatricality of New York, but also clearly a city that was kind of ending a chapter in its manufacturing role. Materials for the Arts was such a fabulous program in New York, and if you had any project going on in a nonprofit, a theater, art installation, well, really those two main areas, the city will ask you, you can go to any commercial enterprise, and if there's something that you can use for your project, they will supply a letter that give to the owners and say, listen, you get free advertising at the site of this show, whatever it is, visual or theatrical or performative, and in exchange for giving the material. And so I went out to find some indoor-outdoor carpeting for this piece here. This was something that was made for Columbus Circle, the site of a show called Spare Parts, celebrating materials for the arts. Great program, and got lots of good stuff. They had a warehouse full of lamp parts, which you can see were put to good use in this kind of theatrical setting with a sort of a sinking city being displayed. The new museum moved to a new location, and Marcia Tucker asked me to do the window display for their new location, which is Lower Broadway. I lived only a block or two away from Broadway, Lower Broadway, and I loved the era of its time, which was steel frame building, and had a lot of reference, of course, to high culture architecture, Renaissance architecture, but North American enterprise needed that present itself as important, and so they borrowed a lot from Europe. New money needed to look important. So suspended in this window were
So, Claudia, we're about halfway through our time.
Oh,
just
okay.
to give you a sense of time.
Thanks. So this was just made out of scrap found on the street. Layla was a friend of mine who repurposed clothing. So again, it was the idea that the bottom sort of dropping out on the city. Art on the Beach was a vacant lot in New York, and it had a program in the summer inviting artists and performers to do an installation. And there had to have been a little bit of Atlantic City in this one. Lenora Champagne and I did several projects together. So it kind of got me out of the fantasy of doing it, being a theater, a set designer. I mean, this was fun. I didn't want to be doing much more of it. It's very challenging to work for a performance setting. And this is our inspiration, Mother St. Croix, who brought her camera to the U.S. and documented the Ursuline Convent.
That image and a couple of them before the Lenora Champagne, those are the first images I remember seeing when you were in Seattle and showing me images that really just stayed in my brain.
Oh.
So etched in my brain, right?
Yeah. Lenora.
Not like anything anybody else was doing in Seattle. Okay?
Thank you, Carol. So I'll just quickly go through another Franklin Furnace project that was funded, and the three traditional backdrops for theater: the city, the country, and the palace, which is for comedy, satire, and tragedy. And these were replicas of actual sites that I knew.
Now we're getting into the part where there are some things that I actually showed in the gallery.
Yes.
Yeah. So I can talk more.
Yes, you sure can.
Yeah.
That last image were just tabletop studies. But from there, I had other projects. Opportunities were given. Socrates Sculpture Park had chain link around it. And it was, the razor wire and the plastic foliage seemed to relate to each other.
Talk to each other?
Talk to each other, yes. So, yeah. This is as you can see, the Munson Williams Proctor Institute, and I wrote a grant for this site. I was really interested in just seeing how much North American culture kind of borrowed, sort of played on their idea of European importance. So this was a good example of this Italianate mansion.
Was this up for some time? Was it up for months?
Yeah, it was up for months. Yeah. And this based on furniture that I had and furniture I saw in the mansion, and how they kind of are these entrapments behind the hedge.
Now we're in the zone of work that actually showed at Fuller Elwood. Yeah. And this was an amazing show.
Thank you.
Made more amazing, I think, I've thought about this a lot, about what made you think that this was an important element. It was the raised platform. This was a very small space. I don't know how many square feet that gallery was, would you say? 250 maybe at the most?
Yeah.
And then to have a rather large platform made you so much more aware of the work, I felt like, because it really restricted your pathway.
Mhm. Yes, I had got a studio, which I also lived in. So I welded in this living space. I lived. It was completely painted white, so I treated the whole space as a kind of a big drawing, big 3D drawing. I did a lot of painting on the floor and ceiling. I mean, floor and wall space first, and then built the metal work to follow what I was drawing. But the drawing was very fluid, so it forced the metal to be quite fluid looking. The other thing in Seattle that I really influenced me was the store Costume and Display. Do you remember that? That pretty important is on First Avenue or Second Ave. I had friends that did window display, but also installations that used that, really took from that store quite a few funny stuff.
When did you start flocking?
For this show, actually.
Okay.
I think what got me into flocking was a mannequin head that I picked up en route driving from the East Coast back to Seattle. And it seemed to be a real typical material in the fixture world, display world.
I also have this vague memory of these little tiny sets that were being imported from Germany in the late 50s that we would get at Christmas time that had little building, but you could create a little village, but there were also little figures that were flocked.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah. In little mesh bags, little red mesh bags. Very inexpensive.
Yeah.
It was an era.
Flocking.
Yeah.
Flocking, yeah. What is flocking? Well, flocking is made to kind of look like velveteen, but you get bags of loose fiber. It's probably not the safest to use, but this loose flocked, and then you spray.
Keep the microphone up to your mouth.
You paint while the paint is still wet. You sort of use this applique.
Yeah.
You spray the flocking on it. I'll never use it again. It's not healthy.
But the pieces left behind are gorgeous and
Well,
really strong. Well, I mean, they're really strong. It's really strong work. It's unfortunate that it's so toxic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So that's one of the pieces you have in the collection is these mannequin heads that are sort of abstract, but configured to be a head, to have it. But you have to sort of think through on what it could be. So I think this is also in your collection. Yeah. So just the magical world of not knowing what the display is about, but it's about something. And it's kind of a wonderful abstraction. This was a study of a postcard. I collect postcards, as you noticed in the earlier slide. Just breaking things down into planes, what I was seeing, which was it's not fair to talk about it unless you can see the postcard, but studies. This was a study of a famous Greek statue. But a lot of them were just taking a shape and seeing what I can do with it.
Would you say anything about your color choices? Was there any, even when you were doing the lumen field heads, was there A
Well, the
process behind?
flocking came in just beautiful colors.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
So
That's-
so I would look at the color and say, well, what would be perfect in this color? I kind of would start there.
Okay. Hertogenbosch.
Hertogenbosch, Netherlands, yes. And what's there is this St. John's Cathedral downtown, Hertogenbosch. Well, it's a medieval town, so there's a town square, there's the church. It's a fascinating environment, and the center was just a walk away from all of this richness.
How many people were there when you were there that you knew? Was it 3 of you?
No. I think there were about 20.
But there were at least 2 of you from Seattle, yes? John Fleming and you?
John. Oh, okay. So I was there twice. The first time,
Okay.
it was just me.
Okay.
But who put me onto us was Akio Takamori. And he showed up at my doorstep one day with 2 bags of clay and said, "Get to work." And that was it. That started me being a ceramicist. But, having this was an amazing inspiration. And also the traditional guardian lion that we see around here, kind of the more North American version. I mean, in the Netherlands, they were exquisite.
Try and keep the microphone up to your mouth.
The guardian lions in Europe are just intensely exquisite.
They're not cheesy.
They're not cheesy, but you see around here. As one version, I made a model, and then I made a mold. They were expert mold makers in this work center, so I learned a lot. And used the mold to make numerous castings and to try out different glazing patterns. Also, there were resources about just the making of brick and using brick to create unbelievable patterns. And so there's a tradition of this in the UK and, various all over the world, a version of how the brick can be used. This is called Kingdom. Oh, yeah, this is about, I would say about 16 feet long and about 10 feet across. And then that little island in the back, maybe 6 feet in diameter.
Was this shown in Greg Kucera's space when he had the gray, the flooring that was the composite wood flooring? Was it shown in that?
Was it? Yeah, it was shown in the 7th Avenue Gallery.
Right.
And I think had that flooring in some parts and just
Right.
concrete. Yeah.
Right. Was a nice contrast with the piece.
Yeah. It's a potion bottle. So more kind of European influence here on that. What? Oh,
The gold ribbon, the gold tie.
Yeah. She was wearing a kind of an apron thing.
Can you see the apron if you're looking at the other side of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this side better. Anyway,
Yeah.
this was actually a self-portrait. I had just gone through some work on my back. I have scoliosis, and so I said, well, would you please take some pictures after you're done? It was sort of, well, I wanted
Self-portrait.
It was a portrait, yeah. And it was a time in my life where my back issues were issues. This is the Bellevue Art Museum and a group show with Akio and Patty Warshina. I was given the room with 15-foot ceilings, so how can you pass up that? making some chandeliers, and playing with the idea, the European traditions. Again, this is sort of a Bavarian milkmaid slash, I don't know, pagoda type thing. Yeah, it was just like letting these different influences be okay and mix them up. Floating mechanism at the Suyama space. And long story, but it used to be a garage, and I don't know how
Great
this happened.
exhibition space.
Yeah, beautiful. Don't know how this came about. It's kind of a sci-fi thing. Yeah, ceramic shells.
It was a moment in time.
It was. Archie Bray, brick factory, old brick factory in Helena, Montana. Really, if I were to go back, I would really put more focus on that factory. It is just fascinating. And the 19th century presence in Montana is fascinating as well. Mining towns. So I was really quite impressed with the M in what seemed to be perfect Times Roman font. It's just laid on this natural landform. And so, but I was also fascinated by how mining towns, I mean, the red light district was a big part of those towns. And Helena was once one of the wealthiest cities in the States in the 19th century because of the gold mining. Yeah. And the red light district was prominent, and you could still see the history of that in the town now. So this is titled Helena, and she's kind of sliced off at the top, but she's a pedestal, a female form made as a pedestal, but kind of her identity kind of got a little bit, I don't know what to say.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. It made sense to me at the time, and it still does. Like any natural form, she was cut off. And that was going on in Montana a lot of mining.
Yeah.
I like the idea of fonts, font forms turning into figures. This is a frieze that was exhibited at Greg Kucera Gallery. After this installation. This is something I made out of styrofoam. I would love to have this be cast in bronze or in porcelain. I still have them, and someday I hope I can do that. But the idea of characters, the character of an alphabet is a character in other senses too. And so I continued this idea, making dress forms that are more human size. So this is seeing what you just saw from a different angle. I really want to make these out of marine grade plywood, painted white. Just angel forms. Back to the angel.
And why wood? Why something so light? Why not something heavy?
Well, actually, plywood's heavy.
Yeah, that's true.
Heavy. Marine grade plywood.
That's true.
I think it's because, and I had a postcard and I cannot find it, of an angel, 19th century angel that was carved wood. And it was right along that aesthetic that you see in the ship head
The
figureheads.
early slides, yeah.
So it was in Berlin that I got a chance to really study the Cold War. I got to study and see the Second World War. And my parents' generation. But they had these wonderful, well, this is actually from New York, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, but the terracotta figurines of ancient Rome have always kind of seemed so fundamental and so hits me in the gut every time. These small figures that are so animated. And I love the idea that an object can also have that sense of movement and animation and still be a still object. So these are based on photos from the Cold War of women and parents holding up their newborn babies for family members on the other side of the wall to see.
Yeah.
So the photograph has to really draw me in, the story of the photograph. It's not my intent to represent that story. It's my responsibility to see how I can embody what I'm looking at and sort of get a sense of it through my own body, if that makes sense. It takes me months to come up with a model of what I'm looking at, what's optical, and to make something that feels embodied. So I do a lot of doing the pose in front of the mirror, doing, getting clothes that sort of are like what I'm seeing in the photo, or just really the models just stick around for months. Do they feel real? Are they activating the space around it mainly?
And you really feel that when you see them in person. So the one that is here, the vessel, is it from the same show? Was this in the same show? The interesting thing about this work to me is my husband worked really hard to understand art, and he did in some ways, and he didn't in some ways. But one of the last shows he saw was this show, and he said, I want to get one of those one day. So after he passed away, I bought the piece that now is here, thinking he deserves it. I need to get it in his honor. Yeah. And it was...
That really...
Yeah, it was touching to me that he said, I need to get one of those someday. Yeah. That was pretty nice.
Yeah.
That shows that you were successful in embodying it with the emotion. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This is from another moment in history. I'm sort of reluctant to identify that because I really just want the artwork to be, as you were saying, this embodied object that is still yet very animated and kind of changes the space around it. And so that's really what I look for. But this was inspired by a very important moment in a woman that was crossing the bridge in Selma, Alabama. And yes, thank you, the Pettus Bridge. And the footage on that is on the documentary of Robert Kennedy. But I've never seen anyone so triumphant. And that stayed with me. So I don't pretend to represent that moment. I just want to just want to put it on my table and see where I go with it, and sort of understanding my own body in a way emulating this in some way. Does that make sense? It's
It
not.
makes a lot of sense. And it also reminds me always, I hope it's okay to say this, of Emilio Pucci, the designer, right? There was just this whole moment in Italian design that was patterned and mixing patterns together much the way we're trying to do now, but it isn't. It seems to me like it was more successful when the Italians did it.
Thank you, Carol. I'm going to look that guy up.
Emilio Pucci.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, I really did not want to head on this. I did not want to have the face take away from the body. There's an interesting article in the New Yorker. I have just started it by Gio
Tolentino?
Yes, of an artist. Forgive me, I don't remember, but
Yeah, I'll think of it in a minute.
yeah. And not identifying the face. But that came up too when I was at I went down to California to see this is why I should take notes when I'm writing, when I say something.
Yeah. We've got about 5 more minutes
Okay.
before we,
Well, there's a practice in that models wore, for various reasons, wore masks, did not want to identify their face for a variety of reasons, but also because seeing the face really detracted from recognizing the pose of the body. And so there are some photos of that in this exhibition.
There she is.
There she is. So I really wanted to
Try and keep the microphone in front of your mouth.
Oh, okay. I really wanted to just do something very simple and to make the figure also a pedestal, and that rather than the bust being the bust being really prominent, that to have the figure up to the bust line, and just have that be the platform in which to present something. But it's called, I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's called Shoulders and Platform and Shoulders.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So it relates really closely with the
Keep your microphone in front of your mouth.
the platform that the figure's standing on. So those two elements, the sliced off space at the top and the platform that she's standing on, are closely related and proportioned with each other.
How close is the bird?
Oh, how close is the bird?
Yeah. I want to talk about the bird.
Well, I'll quickly go through these.
That's nice. Is that a bolt of fabric? Yeah.
No, it's
Okay.
ceramic.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, is it referential? Is it?
There's a photograph I had of Marlene Dietrich in military garb. That
I know
is
the image.
Pretty amazing photo.
Yeah.
Quite an icon, but I really can't do the whole thing. It would be issues of copyright, I'm sure. But I did. I just did enough of it to get the study of her figure. Key sections. The plaid pants you see on the wall were the bottom half of her uniform. But Christina. Oh,
You're looking at me as
Chicago
if I can-
School. Christina, darn it.
painter.
Yeah, Chicago School.
I'm not going to be able to help you with that.
Yeah, okay. So the idea of the bottle is an object. It does have shoulders. It does have a neck, but taking those parts of the bottle literally, and then also taking the more literal human forms in this.
Here we go.
So that, oh, okay, these are 6 feet tall by about 4 feet across, by about 3 feet in depth.
And the material?
Fiberglass with a auto body finish.
It's the west side of the, yeah.
So I was asked to address this part of the field, before it was built. And so I took the drawing, the full elevation, and worked from there backwards. So these heads were about the size of my pinky, just so that they would be in scale with the drawing, with the full elevation. And then I made a 1/4-inch scale model, so of this entire space. But the model heads on the model were about 1.5 inches. So quarter-inch scale, 1/4-inch is a foot. And so that would make a 6-foot head, 1.5 inches on the model. This is one of, this is called Fine Tune Tool, and it's the Gresham Center for the Arts just outside Portland. So these are, different implements like the paintbrush, or the trumpet, or the ballet outfit tutu. Much abstracted, but kind of spliced together to make these 20 feet, 25-foot tall figures. Yeah, Seattle has quite a history of vaudeville and Pantages Theater. Pantages started his franchise of theaters in Seattle, and this house here was his first resident. And it was said that those passing through Seattle got to stay at this home on Harrison Street, Capitol Hill, and they were turning it into apartments, along with a contemporary buildings surrounding it, and wanted some public art. So these objects are ghosts of performers that once stayed in the house. It's in a closed courtyard, so you can't really see it from the street, but you can see the monkey from the street.
Okay, let's see if we can get through these last few. So we have time for questions. I'm hoping there will be questions. My bird.
Yeah.
So remind me, was the one that showed up in the exhibition at Greg Cosera's, was that this, or was that a prototype, or was the?
That was a prototype.
Okay.
That was just to test out the neon and the color of the neon and colors painted around it and how they would mix together.
And the scale of the prototype?
It's, I think it's pretty much to scale.
Okay. And the end scale is?
I'll have to,
It was a beautiful thing to see in a gallery space.
yeah,
Really
it was 10 feet tall.
Yeah. Belongs in a Seattle building, a Seattle lobby. It does.
Thank you. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
The kitchen window curtain. It needed to have a backdrop. What I was assigned to do is find something very tall at the entry of the somewhat hidden entry to the train.
Which
And,
station?
This is the Linwood,
Okay, just so they know.
city center station.
Mm-hmm.
And it's already a bus station. But they had to add on this new utility, the train, and it really turned out to be quite a wonderful campus of transport campus, multimodal, and I worked with a great landscape architect. Don't remember her name. I'm sorry. So this was the way to sort of catch traffic off from the far corner of the campus. And this is the last project I did for the Purple Line in outside of Baltimore and D.C. So the Purple Line runs the length of Prince George County, and is looking to be finished in maybe a year, 2 years. The full line. I was one of the first. My project was the first to get built as a test station, which is the Glenridge Annapolis station en route to Annapolis.
Kind of metal?
It's stainless steel. She's a modern woman. So, yes. And so stands at the entry of this tiny station, but a massive intersection where the train runs through Annapolis and Veterans Parkway. It's a, 6-lane arterials intersection, and you really don't know where the station entry is. So this stands at the entry. And also as kind of a sentry, it's kind of a place to overlook the activity of pedestrian making their way across a kind of treacherous part of the landscape, because this intersection is treacherous. There's a long backstory to this, but William Hunster, an artist in the DC area during the 1920s, was very active in the African American Renaissance in DC at that time, built his home not far from the station, along with Stanley Wormley, who's the grandson of the Wormleys, a famous catering eatery place, famous in Washington, D.C. Those two were friends, artists, educators in D.C., and professional folks that had the money to build a second home in this Ann Ardmore neighborhood. That was because the Baltimore and the Potomac rail had just been built, famous for its double truck drive, also famous for the assassination of Cleveland, I think, in one of the stations. But anyway, I was asked to address that history, and the home is still standing of Thomas Hunster. He built it out of parts and pieces. Beautiful, wonderful front porch. You can just picture cocktail parties on that porch, because they were known to invite friends from the city up to their weekend homes, and wearing the fashion of the day, which was sort of a 20s outfit, very elongated, tiered. And so there's a whole bunch of stories behind this. I just wanted, though, to really make something very complex and something that you could look at over and over again, which is my intent for all of my public art projects, that captures something of the stories that are at the site.
Perfect ending.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm hoping there's some questions. Does anybody have a question? Yeah.
How much, like this one and the one in Linwood, tell me about how much you do and how much maybe you have somebody helping you with that?
Oh, how much do you have fabricated? It's all
I
fabricated.
do a little drawing on a napkin and then take it to my fabricator and say, is this possible? And he says, yes. Well, here's the engineer's phone number. So I send the drawing to the engineer. Is this possible? And he says, yes. And so we take it up to what's called 10% design. Does this fit in the budget? Well, maybe. And then you go all the way to 100% drawing, 100% design. That's the nuts and bolts part of this. The 10% is just the concept, and does the community want it? And they were ecstatic about the idea of a hummingbird. Anything to replace the chicken, which is what Linwood was mainly identified for.
A step up.
So, very popular idea. Linwood has, outside of its original parking lot, a garden that is native plants, strictly. And I thought, well, I'll get an idea. I hadn't gotten to the hummingbird yet, but I went to the garden and said, well, let's see what I can find there. Maybe a plant form that's beautiful, and take that. And this hummingbird kept flying in my face, and I was clearly standing too close to a nest. And I thought, well, if this isn't obvious, I guess what will be. The hummingbird became, and I have to say, thank you, Kirk Kiefer, for taking that idea. I'm going to start crying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And he didn't make it. He was supposed to come.
Well, he said, yeah, you could do all these, because I make a menu of ideas and to present. And he says, yeah, but these ideas, someone else will do these. The hummingbird, go for it. It's unusual. It's beautiful.
Kurt's a project manager for transit,
Yeah.
Transit, and he's the
Yeah.
best.
And he was absolutely right. And people loved it.
Yeah.
And so there it is.
Thanks for the question.
Did I
Any-
answer your question? Did I
Yeah,
answer
you did.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Any other questions? Wow. Sure.
The wall pieces here, The Gift of Carol Fuller, are those styrofoam and then flocked?
They are styrofoam and then painted with what's called foam coat. It's a theatrical material for making sets that is covered with this thing that kind of turns into a very hard shell over the styrofoam, and then flocked.
And then flocked.
And then
at the end.
flocked.
Oh, okay.
A very important question. Thank you. It is, because it's from there I decided to do work in ceramic.
Yeah.
Because the pieces certainly have been holding up for the last 15 years, but I want I'm glad they're still holding up. I'm sorry, it sounds
No, but I mean, there is a point at which you don't know if something's going to hold up.
Yeah.
I think of historically, a lot of things haven't held up.
yeah.
So
They're holding up, but the supports are steel, so
right. You just have to keep to make sure nobody bashes them. Right.
yeah.
Claudia, are you ready for
Hi. Oh, Michelle.
Claudia, what are you working on now? Can you say?
Well, I could say waiting for the Maryland project to finish. My end of it, I hope, is finished. But until everything is finished, you never know. And actually, I'm working on what my history has been. And this is sort of the first stab of that. And it's been really gratifying to do some of that for you guys. So, and it's much more of a project than I would have even imagined. I mean, way more. So I'm really wanting to examine my history. I imagine a number of you are, examining who I am and what did I do.
When I went up to the Skagit to see Claudia at Mount Vernon, we realized that some of our background issues were very, very similar. Growing up in houses with an artistic parent and a musical parent, and being exposed to a lot of things. I mean, she was in Montlake, I was in Chehalis, and I just always felt like our family were outliers. They exposed us to so much that a lot of people weren't exposed to in a town of that size. So those early experiences really stay with you.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Well, my father grew up in a very tiny town in Nebraska, but had a mother who went to college and majored in music and literature. And everybody learned to play piano and everybody learned to read good literature.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a little bit of that and appreciation of, the world beyond your street.
Do you see this evolving into a book?
Oh.
I would love to see that. I'm not sure that this is just the beginning, but I would like that.
Will you be able to use this slideshow again in another context, do you reckon?
Yeah, I hope so.
It seems like it pops.
Yeah. I would like to just dig around some more.
I have a question. The yellow piece that we have, where does that fit into your trajectory? The one on the wall.
Well, you saw at some point in the slideshow several that were called mannequin heads or mannequins. So there's a pink and a gold kind of background.
Try to get the microphone in front of your mouth.
Oh, yeah. And so I showed only about 3 of those. And there's actually 7 of those that are owned by, I think Perkins Coie has one, different collections.
So it's a mannequin head?
Well, they're titled just mannequins.
Oh, okay.
But the head of a mannequin, basically. So this one was near the end. And I made choices on that were really distinct from the series previous to it, all the different ones I made previous. So, but it's kind of the last of 7.
Claudia asked me to store it for her years and years ago, and I did. And then I moved, and when I moved into my new house, I hung it very proudly. And she came over one day and she said, "You do know you don't own that." It was so perfect, I bought it. I think it's got good spirit, that piece, right? Yeah, I was very amused that I'd conveniently forgotten that fact.
That's okay.
Yeah, it all ended up just fine.
There's quite a few pieces out there that are not owned by the people that are babysitting them.
That's right.
For now decades.
That's how it works. Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you talked about your mannequin heads, and yet when you did the ceramics, they don't have heads. They're figures of your ceramics.
Well, there's more ceramics coming down. I mean, I'm not through with ceramics. That may just be the legs.
Oh.
I think it should be kind of cool. I was surprised doing this, looking at the photos from Rome and the photos of the piazzas, several, and the figures walking across those spaces. And of course, the spaces themselves really showcase any movement across that space. But it reinforced my belief in just looking at legs for a while. But what's next is if I can at least get some decent prints from the contact sheet, the film, the negatives, would maybe be the next thing to do, along with some ceramic legs. I have I have a piece that I'm working on that is a small replica of one of the terracotta buildings along. It used to be Higo Variety Store. That building that was
Kobo Higo now.
yes,
Or Higo Kobo. Or not
and their storefront window is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I talked with Binko, can I please do something in your storefront window? And then
COVID
not-
hit. No? Was this right before COVID?
it was right before COVID,
Yeah.
and other stuff that going on in downtown. The last I looked, the window was boarded up.
It might still be boarded up. I'm not sure I remember.
Yeah.
I go down there all the time, and they have a strap across the door. You have to ring a buzzer. I mean, it's been a problem.
Yeah.
Down there, but things are on the uptick down there as well. Things are getting much, much better.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I would have to get funding for this, but I just wanted more people on the street in the window walking, as you see walking on the street. That was really my vision. It was kind of my vision for downtown Mount Vernon, because the storefronts that go the length of Main Street there. So, I mean, it's kind of a Main Street, not nostalgia, just, making use of a public space that's the window and reflecting on the public space that's the sidewalk.
We have a question here.
Oh,
What? Plaid? Clad. Yes, clothes. Yes. Yes. The whole thing about the street is the clothing.
okay. Claudia, we have a question over here.
Yeah.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much. This
Oh.
was terrific. And
Thank you.
You just mentioned it, and it brought up a question that I had earlier when we were seeing them. Is the black and white photography was interesting, and it looked almost like it was done with a box camera. I mean, can you talk a little bit about those photographs and the equipment? I know that's off the subject.
Well,
But-
no, because it's kind of laziness on my part. My friend, the photographer, Howard Giske, generously took a bunch of those cans of undeveloped film and developed them and made contact sheets with those strips of negatives. And the photographs you saw were me. Well, originally I would scan them on my scanner, which had a very high resolution option. But for this talk, I couldn't find those files. I'll get to them. I'm not sure where they are, but I took them with my little iPhone camera and blew them up. So that's,
Sure.
but yes, but what you're seeing is the contact sheet and the dust that was probably on the contact sheet, along with a staple or two,
Sure.
So
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Okay.
They're looking kind of, forlorn in a way.
Well, and kind of a high key, almost, well, very white, but also an element of historic photography almost.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Thanks.
they are
Thank
nice.
you. Yeah.
Have we done it? I think we have. This was really fun. Thank you all for coming. It was really great.
Thank you.
Thank you.